everyone felt groundlessness. It was like our reality as we knew it wasn't holding together.
I think that's why some of us went to work. You know, my wife and I went right down to the office while the second plane was hitting the tower, because I felt the need, and I think she probably did too,
to ground yourselves. Yeah. So I'm not saying that it's entirely a bad thing, because, I mean, ways that we experience groundlessness as a positive thing would be like awe, wonder, you know, beauty, great beauty that just stops our mind. And so, as I say, sometimes it's pleasant. But my curiosity has been more around when it's unpleasant.
And what was the step from that trauma in your life to taking up the training of becoming a nun?
Well, it didn't take very long. It didn't take very long, curiously enough, because believe me, it's the last thing. I grew up Catholic, and the last thing not that I had a negative experience with nuns, but I never dreamt of being a nun. You know, it was the last thing I ever dreamt. But here I became a nun. So the first step was reading that article, and then I found a teacher. I wasn't looking for a teacher, but I met one, and somehow within 2 years I became a nun. I mean, it's very, very strange. In my life, when I've had certain thoughts, I say, this is a forward thought, and I have to follow it. It just happens every so often. And for some reason, taking the vows represented a forward thought. And when I look back, it was premature. My children were young teenagers. And it would have been better to have waited until they were older. So,
did you ever feel guilt over that?
Oh, yes. But in terms of having done it, I think the timing could have been better, but there's no other decision for me in life. That was the decision, you know. I always feel people are very fortunate, like this would be, you must feel this too, that somehow you find your niche or something where you always are somewhat on fire with a positive inspiration for not even for your cause or something, but you found something in your life that gives it deep meaning and that doesn't run out.
I understand better now what you write somewhere when you say that you think most spiritual experiences begin with suffering. They begin with groundlessness. They begin with when the rug has been pulled out.
They do. And I would say, as a teacher of meditation and Buddhist teachings, and talking to many other, much more accomplished teachers than myself, one of the things that people say is that students can be very attracted to the ideas and very enthusiastic about it, like intellectually and conceptually. But it's very superficial. It's not changing them at the core of their being or shaking anything up, in terms of how they perceive reality, the limited kind of narrow way in which we perceive reality. It's not shaking it up at all. Mm-hmm. But when real hardship enters their lives, something that they can't just shake off, like great loss or pain or anything of this nature, where you can't just shake it off, you can't just smile and make it okay. The rug has been pulled, it is groundless. Then people start asking and seeking and have profound wish to try out this whole path.
There's a line somewhere, someone says, I'm only paraphrasing it, that when an old culture is dying,
yes, the
new culture will be formed by men and women who are not afraid of insecurity.
Right, I just loved that when I read it, It will be formed by people who are not afraid of insecurity, is that what it said?
Afraid to be insecure.
Afraid to be
insecure. What do you take that to mean?
Well, just what I've been saying, and this was the article of Trungpa Rinpoche's, why it's a sort of, was like a light bulb going off. Everything else seemed to be saying, look towards the good, chant until you're in an ecstatic state, like that. The underlying assumption was there was something wrong and you wanted to avoid this groundless state, or this unformed state, or this state in which you felt uneasy and queasy. And Trungpa was saying, not at all. It's like the matrix of creative potential, the matrix of the spiritual life. Like, if we could rest there, which I suppose would be the description of enlightenment or the mystic, you know, rests in that place and is completely happy. That's why, you know, they always say with someone who's very, very awake, just to use a term for enlightenment, you know, the walls could start crumbling in, and they wouldn't like freak out or something, because it would be everything in life, anything could happen, and they're kind of ready for anything to happen. Do you see what I'm saying?
Is that what you mean by the term, the awakened heart?
Yeah, I suppose. Awakened heart, awakened mind.
Enlightenment, the Buddhists talk of?
Yeah, yeah. That you could, and you see, this is one of the things that drew me to Buddhism, because Buddhism, or the Buddha taught that everybody had the potential, without exception. Every living being has the potential to awaken, you know, to wake up.
That's intriguing to me, because the knock on Buddhism is that, well, all of this concentration on yourself.
The what of Buddhism?
The knock on it, the criticism, the public rap on it, is that all of this concentration on the self feeds your personal narcissism.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it can. It can. I mean, let's just say, just because you call yourself a Buddhist, you're just as hookable as anybody else. And Buddhists can become as much fundamentalists as anybody else, you know.
As much fundamentalist?
Sure.
Remember that rigid mind?
Yes.
That we associate with?
Now, the whole teaching, and usually what attracts people is it teaches otherwise. But let's just say it's so basic in us. Let's just say you're a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, and I have, you know, been doing this for over 30 years, for after all, you know. But when someone hurts my feelings and puts the knife in, and I actually think that they're actually purposely slandering me or gossiping about me or saying a mean word, or I just don't come out looking so good, you know, is my first impulse to love them? No. My first thing is I get hooked. And if it wasn't for the way I'm sort of thrilled by the challenge of that, I would just bite the hook like anyone else. And most, you know, Buddhists, it doesn't matter. We still bite the hook, we still get towed under, and we can still, you know, what I say, clobber people with our peace signs, you know. So it really doesn't matter what religion we are. We can be a fundamentalist or a non-violent, non-aggressive propagator of love in the world and fellowship of humanity. And do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I like this notion that we all are capable of being fundamentalist,
right,
because we like to be angry at other people's wrongness. You know? We all get indignant at everybody else.
So this is the part where I get really intrigued, is I feel so passionate about wanting to teach and live, personally live by this, and that the main thing is free from fixed mind. That was a term of Trungpa Rinpoche's, free from fixed mind, free from closed mind, free from bigoted mind or fundamentalist mind. And it all starts with the Shenpa. It all starts with getting hooked. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's where the work has to be done, and no one can be naive and say, I'm Shenpa free, you know. That might be a description of enlightenment, you know. Or maybe a description of enlightenment is Shenpa's no big problem. When it happens, it's just another blurb on the radar screen, you know. But it doesn't set off the chain reaction. So we're all
chain reaction?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, chain reaction?
Well, it's like a tightening in the stomach or a tightening of the jaw. You can see it in other people. When you're talking to them, you can see that they've just been hooked. Their eyes kind of glaze over or whatever. And if it just stayed there, it wouldn't be a problem. But then you just think about it and think about it and think about it, and it's like a chain reaction. So let's say that the Shenpa